Okay, so this is this video will explain the initiative to kickstart some kind of open collaboration to understand social needs. The most well-known example, of course, is Wikipedia. So think of this as making sense of social needs in Singapore, Wikipedia style. There are two objectives today. So one is to understand the problem, the other to solve the problem. I think these are new ways of collaboration. So to understand the problem, basically we're trying to figure out who can we rely on to identify service or policy gaps and their causes, and how can we better understand social needs in a way that allows those with the solutions to understand how they can help. In terms of solving the problem, it's more like collective solutioning or collective impact. What are the right community assets that should be part of the solution? How can we arrive at a coherent and systematic plan that harnesses the strengths of all relevant partners? So open collaboration, the current situation, right, of us understanding social needs is this. Typically centrally led needs assessments by some policy division, some NGO or specific researcher. And so it's incremental knowledge depending on the bandwidth that the person or the institute or the agency has. It's also typically fragmented. Typically academics like to study something very deep, but it's hard to connect elsewhere. So if you look at it, every graduate student who starts on some research topic basically starts from scratch, right? So you search ministry website, get some information, do your review, etc. And also it's a snapshot view of needs, because once you publish your report of your needs and gaps, things change very quickly such that immediately it's almost already dead and already expired. Policies change, services change, and things change. So we propose that we do it open collaboration, which is crowdsource it, and it's democratized and open to all, in the sense that if you think about it, IDEO, the design firm, has made design thinking democratized. So we think that needs assessment, in a sense, doesn't need to be something that only researchers, analysts, or policymakers do. It's something that everyone can do and can do quite well. In fact, probably better. So needs assessments has been done. There's always a pull from the academic community to say, it would be more participatory. It shouldn't be the researcher studying others and writing it up. You should kind of get the community involved. But we think that we can push it from just merely being participatory to open collaboration. Participatory meaning just involve community partners, but open collaboration, and these are all the examples, right? Flickr, it's kind of interesting. For example, the logic is gather then share rather than share then gather. No, the logic is not gather, share, but share, then gather, right? So it's, if you went to take pictures of Jingay Parade and you hashtag it and put it all up, nobody is filtering what you are taking. But if you wanted to search for Jingay, it's all going to be there. And the same for Wikipedia. It's not like the academic logic, which is, I write something, I send it to a publisher, it gets peer reviewed, 6 months later, come back and tell me accepted or not accepted. It is instead, publish first, then filter later. And so, I think if you think about it, the newspaper is in the business of directing the work of photographers sometimes, but Flickr is simply a platform. So what it has managed to achieve is a loosely affiliated group that can accomplish something more effective than the institution can. And so I think for us, we believe that we can do needs assessments in this way, because the number of people who are willing to start something is smaller, much smaller than the number of people who are willing to contribute once somebody else starts something. So Wikipedia actually started with a different model. It was called Newpedia, and they wanted experts to write up like authoritative text on certain topics, and it didn't take off because experts took a long time and they wanted to be comprehensive. And so it was very slow, but the alternative platform that I explored was to crowdsource it, and then people could just go in and say, we need an article on asphalt, and somebody would then put in a little bit, and somebody without expertise knowledge can even go in and correct punctuation, this kind of thing. So it allows for a wider range of people to do something to the platform. So this is a site where I talk a bit more about it. You can explore it if you want. Now, so what is needs assessment? This is an example. It's a simplified version. There's more to it that we cannot show here, but this is an end-of-life example. So on the left side here, you can the idea is to identify the needs in, kind of this like a matrix, so you kind of plonk it, so people need to be identified as facing end-of-life issues, need for public to be aware of their options, need for pain and symptom management, etc. And it helps you plonk in information. So for example, we know that there's a public education campaign by Lien, there's a Singapore Hospice Council survey that shows public awareness is low. So here are the needs. This part is your inventory of existing services that are meant to address those specific needs. And then you have a sense of whether the services that we have are adequate, so that's your gap. And then if it is good or not so good, what is the cause of that gap, and therefore potential solutions. So if you do this, you can start telling a story. So if you look down the second column, the first column is all your client needs. The second column is your resource directory, whether community or public or private resources that are meant to address those needs. And if you look across, there is a story you can tell. So for example, you can, for example, need for public to be aware of their options and accept their validity. We know that the awareness and acceptance of palliative care is low, likely due to cultural stigma. And we say it this way because it's an actionable insight. So we're trying to arrive at these synoptic statements that are actionable. If I give you broad statements like in 2030 we'll have how many seniors who are old, etc., it's still many, many steps away from us knowing what to do about it. But if I tell you awareness and acceptance of palliative care is low, likely due to cultural stigma, then if you are a group of community artists, you can say, well, I know how to do puppet shows or forum theatre, I know how to do experiential art things, and I can do this to help the seniors use destigmatized ways of helping the seniors think about end-of-life planning, for example. So it's important to get at actionable insights. And we also write it in such a way, notice, very tentative, right? Here, likely due to cultural stigma, unclear if vulnerable seniors have no social support, feel the same here. And so all the knowledge gaps that we have are made transparent so that people who have better answers to it can come and tell us so. And also, some of these things perhaps suggest whether we can rethink our service models. For example, our existing palliative care, a lot of the volunteers that go visit hospices, they bring the seniors out for recreational activities, go to Marina Bay Sands, etc. But it does seem like that's just using up their time. Many of them at the end of their lives do feel like they want to be contributive members. So then does this, we don't know how big or important this is, but perhaps we can rethink our service model. So that's the basic idea here, to do needs assessments collaboratively. Because no NUS professor has done some kind of representative survey, so we don't know whether cultural stigma it's really there. But we have many social workers who go down to the SACs and then they talk to the seniors, and then the seniors say, we don't want to talk about that because it's very bad, right? So that's as far as you have. And then you can then develop some kind of targeted solution, right? Do you want to actually do that study? Is it worth it? Or if that's good enough, is that information good enough for you to do something about or not? So it allows you and the community partners to kind of more strategically decide what knowledge gaps are worthwhile filling and what is not. So that's the basic idea. Now the benefits. Coherent knowledge growth, because right now each policy division or research center does their own thing and it belongs to them. But if everyone contributes, then it is public knowledge. And if everyone does it, it's not incremental knowledge based on the individual efforts of different agencies, but exponential growth. And the knowledge is always live and constantly updated. And also it changes the way of working. I think if a concerned citizen sends an email out to some government agency and asks for information about something, you can be assured that they will scramble to find as authoritative and comprehensive an answer as possible, whether they know it or not, and hope you don't ask tough questions because they are supposed to know, because that's the relationship we have, right? And so the thing that changes when we do it this way is that then instead of that approach, we become more transparent about what we don't know. In fact, so we say, this is as far as we got. If somebody can tell us better whether our understanding is comprehensive and correct, then we welcome you. And in fact, when we had an RA work on a project, he said that the kind of work is entirely different from the way that he's been taught in school. Right, you write a research paper, it's supposed to be as good as and comprehensive as possible. And even if you can't, and no individual can aspire to that, but nonetheless, you got to act like you are. And so this changes the ethos of work, which I think is healthier. It's also decentralized and supposed to generate actionable insights. So we think and we hope that serious, complex work can be taken without institutional direction. So we have, instead of selling the concept, I've gone on a roadshow to tell people that we can do this. We've started to come up with 2 beta sites, one on financially vulnerable seniors and one on foreign workers, and I can show you the site briefly. So if you, this is a wiki site that I've started to use, not because it's the best site, because it was, it's cheap and easy to use, but there are many functional problems with it. And so part of the goal here is to find out people who can tell us what sites are better, what kind of ICT system will work. If you go to the site, it looks something like this right now. So this is the foreign workers one. There's a table of contents, and you have your problem definition, size of express needs, consequences, etc., your client profile. So it's a series of things that people can plonk in to make sense of. And the yellow parts are things that they're not sure of. So the idea is to try using this, and if somebody goes in, you can just take the information if you want. Or if you want to go in and had an RA who says, I don't know anything about foreign workers, but I can go in, I can check spelling for you, I can format for you, then it also improves. So if the community at large owns this and contributes something to it, then it can improve. This is not as good as the Wikipedia sites you typically see. The Wikipedia sites, you have a chunk of paragraph, and then there's the edit button. You click on the edit button, you edit that part. This one is terrible because you click on this edit button and the whole page loads. And then I have to find the part that I want to edit. So I can go here and say, this is terrible. So I've just vandalized it. And then I save and close, and it will be there. So this platform allows you to either open it out to the public or open it to only partners that you invite. So that's up to you. We have one on financially vulnerable seniors that we worked with South Foundation on, so it looks slightly better because more time was spent on this. Also, we put up the needs and gaps report that derived from this. So the needs and gaps report is like a summary of the huge mass of information you see there. Okay, so that's the platform. Let's see. Do you have any questions? Okay, sure. Sure, go ahead.
Are you crowdsourcing? Because you just now you said actionable insights and will determine on one that's most urgent, right? Like in terms of the needs. So are you crowdsourcing the kind of value judgment, or are you crowdsourcing the needs? Are we not having comprehensive enough need, or are we trying to decide which one is the most urgent?
Yeah, I think prioritizing which needs or which gaps are more urgent is part of the harder work of sense making. This one is kind of good for cataloging stuff, things you know. But once you have the information, we can and we should mobilize the community. For example, you have stuff on end of life here. The palliative care community can sit down and then either once or twice a year and make sense and prioritize and say, and then do your assessments and value judgments, and the higher analytic work can come later. But it's for you to put in. It's easy to put in facts and stats and information and research findings, but beyond that, the stuff that is useful I think requires a further step, which this will help to